What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Collider Media Studio at the Cinema Center at South by Southwest 2025. So excited to talk about Hallow Road. Congratulations. Something else. I was riveted. I was stressed. I was like exhausted after watching your movie, honestly.
That was like the shoot. Yeah.
Truly, I can't even imagine. We're going to get into some of it. Clearly, I know what your movie is, but just in case our viewers are first learning about it through the festival, would you mind doing the honors and giving a brief synopsis?
Of course. The film starts with a couple played by wonderful Matthew Rhys and Rosamund Pike. They get a phone call at like 2 a.m. from their daughter, the teenage daughter, saying that she just got into a horrible accident and she needs their help. So they jump in the car to go and drive to help her. She's on the other end of the phone. And almost from that moment onwards, like the film is almost entirely in the car. And things starts unraveling, strange things starts happening. And so we're like basically living, we're experiencing these parents' sort of worst nightmare.
Even just hearing you explain it now, I'm like getting all tense again. All I kept thinking about while I was watching it is how stressful it was, like for me, someone who is not a parent, to watch something like this, and then trying to imagine like, what someone who has children might think of the movie, because I don't know, being separated from a loved one via a phone while they're going through something terrifying sounds like one of the most nerve-wracking experiences.
It is. And it's just like all you have is your anxiety and your imagination, which that's what we're trying to tap into.
You play with that big time. So you're working with William's script here. Yeah. When that script comes your way, I'm sure it's a great script, but what space did you find in his writing that you thought you could fill in a way that's kind of unique to you as a director and storyteller in general?
Sure. I mean, I'm crazy. I love tension. It's good because I have a lot of anxieties myself. It's very cathartic to make other people feel.
To inflict it on others.
Exactly. But so I read it and I was like, this is intense and such a ride, and like and it's in the car. And also the challenge of it, that like it was almost entirely set in the car, and I told the producers, I do not want to leave the car. Like just that's like that's the fun bit, and like how trying to figure that out, like how to maintain that sort of level of tension just within the sort of the contained space of a car. That was like the fun challenge for us.
Fun challenge. For me, to kind of look at a script as tense as it was, I also looked and went, I can get to sit down through an entire film. It sounds great.
When you get this script, what are some of your big burning questions for him, just in terms of like, how are we going to pull this off?
It was more so, how are you going to pull this off? But in fairness to Babak, he said, it was one of the first things he said, I know exactly how I'm going to shoot this. And testament to him, he absolutely did. He kind of chapterizes this whole film. And just the movement he kept within a car and his imagination with shots and kind of themes and light. And it was, I never watch anything I do, but I did watch it last night for the first time. And you never get dull or stayed of being inside that car, which is, it only kind of cacophonizes everything.
Truly one of the most impressive elements of the film. I think that comes from your visual eye, and like your performances are just like through the roof. I'm going to come back to that in a quick second. Another thing I really wanted to follow up on in our production notes was the emphasis on Celtic myths, which I'm just fascinated to learn more about lore like that. So are there any particular myths that you kind of held especially tight to and we can see coming through in the story?
But if I like spell it out, it would be a massive spoiler.
Don't do that then.
But it's a very popular Celtic. It's loosely inspired by a very popular Celtic myth around like UK, Ireland, in Wales as well, right? So that's all I'm gonna say. I think people who are into their fairy tales and myth, they would like immediately, hopefully, clock it.
Okay, fair enough. I'm gonna start Googling after. I'm gonna read everything that I could find. So, Matthew, to get into your character a little here, just so I don't have to sit here and be like, tell me about who you're playing. At the beginning of this situation, what would you say is his greatest strength in this whole thing that's going down, the thing that could help him like get to his daughter and help? But then also I want to know what his greatest weakness is, the thing that could hold him back.
Yeah, I mean, one of the two for him, I think, in the fact that I think he prides himself on problem solving and the kind of basic fundamentals of paternity, which is to kind of protect or look after your offspring, and then obviously posed with the greatest kind of antithesis of that, which is the absolute inability to protect your child. It unravels everything he thought were his greatest assets, which makes it just interesting to play.
So another interesting layer of that is that your character and Rosamund's have like completely different approaches to figuring this situation out and getting to her. Can you maybe tease how their approaches differ in this situation?
Yeah, that's, I think what any good screenwriter aspires for is the kind of, the conflict between the two, and those two are placed in a very small space with the greatest challenge ahead of them, how that kind of unravels or sees its way out. But Rosamund playing a paramedic has a pragmatic side to her, which I think is the great counterbalance to my passion, as I used to say.
It's also something about her character that I thought was just like incredibly effective in terms of conveying like exposition that the audience would want to know in that situation, but in a way that felt organic.
Yes.
I
thought it was an absolute stroke that, that then you're privy to what the true procedure is without it being told, smashed over the head by it.
So you go into this, I'm sure, well aware of the fact that like she's one of the best of the best. But is there something that you two did, I guess, like in prep or early in production that made you look at her and say to yourself, like, my God, I'm really in this car with the perfect scene partner for this?
Yeah, I think it was probably that the improvisational work we did at the beginning. We did some improvisational rehearsals, and it wasn't really a shock. But I don't think you said action, but you sort of said you can kind of begin whenever you want.
Start it.
And it's like a switch with Rosamund. The intensity, okay, now it's game time, switch, is kind of startling. It's so immediate and so deep. And I went, oh, it's time to step up. There's no easing our way into this. And I think that's how she attacks every day and every scene.
Do you have any particular techniques you like to lean on when you're involved in a movie where, like, when action is called, you have to take it to an 11?
I know we've touched on it, but truly now, it's a cliche, having become a father, the kind of the immediacy of some emotions it now gives you, that if you need to go there quickly, it's that strange channel you can tap for free. And after becoming father, you're like, oh, there's all this reserve that I've never been able to tap that I now can.
Oh my, I can't even imagine that headspace while like applying that to this particular movie. Yeah. It's just really something else. Can you guys kind of paint a picture of what the set looks like? Because there's a variety of different ways that driving scenes can be filmed in this industry. So what was it like figuring out the right way to capture this story?
When I read the script, I immediately told everyone that, I don't want to do the normal approach of like finding a road, locking it down and mounting the cameras in the car. Because, we're in that car for like 60 minutes or so. And so I immediately was like, we need to take a car to studio and shoot it on a volume stage.
I had a feeling.
With LED screens all around it. So, and then we can dismantle the car and the car actually becomes our set. So that was the plan. And then the way it worked out is actually, we kind of like isolated you all, like, you were like surrounded by those screens. So you couldn't see that many, like the crew members and that must have felt strange.
It was a real luxury. You're so used to kind of having to try and block out an entire crew, or on everything else that comes with that, and really the way kind of Kit lit it and everything. It was a real luxury to have just the screen in front of you and obviously those around you, but nothing else. You couldn't see the crew. So it really was an isolated experience, which only helps.
I always love hearing about using the volume on a film like this, because I feel like most out there just assume like, oh, it's, like it's for Star Wars.
Yeah, the weird thing, it works so well for us because the very first day I had this crazy idea that I was like, look, firstly, just as a warm up, I'm gonna point the cameras at you two, and we're gonna do the entire thing from the moment you get into a car all the way to the end. We're gonna do it in one go. And we were like, that's so exciting. And then on the day, we're like, are we sure this is a good idea? But we did it. And And you know, a lot of that take is in it ended up being in the film. It was a great experience for me.
It was the first time we'd done anything. But Babak had said, listen, this is what I'm going to do. We're going to put new cards in the cameras and we're going to run it, you know, so it was like 50 something minutes as a take.
That's incredible.
It was like doing a play.
I gotta say, I love the movie as is. I would love to just like see that take. I'm just so curious.
Director's cut.
So this is a question I ask fairly often because it's one of the things about acting that fascinates me. I always ask, like, what is a seemingly small everyday thing that is the toughest to replicate on screen believably? And one of the examples I always give is fake driving. So, like, what do you think the answer to that question is?
Yeah, I don't want to sound like, but I've done a number of fake driving. So I kind of went in going, this is fine. But there were still days when like Babak would say, or someone would say, you're not looking like you're driving. Do you know what I mean? I was like, oh, sorry. But especially with this one where you're so invested in the phone and what's happening, it's very easy to kind of forget to move the wheel. So there were days when I was like, oh yes, sorry. And you know, as on the volume, you have your own screen so you're replicating what, you know, the audience see at the back. So it does make it easy. You're genuinely following a road. But even then, I was still forgetting to do it.
It's always like a fascinating
Or someone will be like,
me.
remember to change gear because it was a stick. I was like, oh yes, sorry. I've been in the States too long.
I love talking about the little things like that are so important to filling out a world and making it believable, but like you don't think of how hard it could be. Like the other example I always give is fake sneezing. Like who can do a believable fake sneeze?
Yeah.
Sneeze. Or fake waking up.
Yeah, that's a tough. It's all the things that kind of give you anxiety. The fake waking up, sneeze, cough, laugh. Laugh is killer.
Someone once told me one of the toughest things to do in a believable manner is to express like extreme joy.
Oh yeah.
And something about that made me a little sad, but I get it.
No, but it is. That's a tough one to replicate. Yeah.
Well, for what it's worth, when it comes to this movie, you drove it very believably.
Oh, thank you. I drove Rosamund crazy.
All right, Babak, I'm coming your way with like a bajillion visual questions. This came to mind based on one of the previous answers, but one like little detail that caught my eye was there's points in the movie where like certain elements of the car are almost like, I guess like kind of superimposed on the visual. Like one of the ones that comes up in my mind is the turn signal. When we see it in the side windows, what was it that inspired a choice like that?
Basically, so the idea, and also talking about the visual, so when we're outside the car, I shot everything 16mm film.
I love that choice.
Oh, thank you. And then once we're in the car, it switches to digital. And the idea was that you're outside in the objective world. Once we enter the car, we enter the anxious psyche, and it becomes slowly more and more expressionistic. So all those visual cues are almost representation of what they're feeling and what they're ignoring sometimes, like turn back, go back, wrong choice, like with the arrow of the indicator and things like that, which we had like a tremendous amount of fun like playing with them. And look, a lot of them work. Some of them obviously you sit in the edit and say, oh, it takes the audience out of the moment. So it was just a balancing act with my editor Laura.
I thought it was very effective to have like something of urgency kind of like in my face in a big way. So I quite like that. I want to go back to working with Kit. What was it like developing the visual language? And I guess like, what did Kit bring to that as, a unique visual artist on their own that maybe we can see influencing the visuals that you pull off in the movie?
Well, Kit Fraser, my DP, we've met at film school, so we know each other since we were like teenagers. So we started working together on short films. So I always say he's almost like half of my brain. So that already, he knows what I'm after and he brings his own thing. So yeah,
I love that. I love highlighting filmmaking families and like growing filmmaking families. When you were in school with Kit, what was the first thing you saw him do, or just like in him as a person that signaled to you like that's someone I'm going to stick with?
It's just his like lighting style, even at the age of 18, like used to blow me away. I mean, when you're that age, you only try to copy other films. Right. I mean, we still do, like take inspiration from film, but yeah, no, that was the thing. But the great thing about Kit is that like once the initial conversation starts, then he creates the set on in a 3D software, so we can actually play around with the angles and the lights and yeah, and honestly, the most, I know it sounds really simple, it's just that we get each other because we work together for a long
It's a real
time.
joy to watch the two of them work, you know, because they're so simpatico that, you know, they're finishing each other's sentences almost. But there's this unwritten, unsaid, unspoken language that they have, which is a joy to watch.
Bad in jokes as well, which were like, and everyone's like, what? That's not funny.
Do I dare ask for one?
I can't. I'm blanking now. But if I tell you, it was like, that's definitely not funny.
As long as it's funny to you, that's not entirely true, but I'll say that right now. I also really wanted to ask about the editing, because like you get these incredible visuals, and again, almost the entire movie takes place in one location, and it's just like, it's so incredibly difficult to keep those kinds of visuals dynamic and to up the tension every single step of the way. So was there any, I guess, trial and error in the edit phase, just in terms of figuring out the right cutting techniques you could use to continuously build tension from start to finish for the entire 80 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, hats off to Laura Jennings, my editor, and she's done like really big like Marvel stuff, and so but then I don't want to talk. This is what she keeps saying, that it was one of the toughest films she had to edit, because it's just one space and trying to maintain the tension and the pace. As Matthew said very early on, I kind of chaptered it, and like I had a discussion with her how like it just needs to keep ramping up with tiny breaks in the middle, you know, a bit of levity every now and then. But so that we had a rough plan, but editing is trial and error. Like I said, we experimented with a lot of like different visual cues. Some of them didn't end up in the cut because we thought like we're so in the moment. If we just do something tricksy, it might pull the people out. So yeah, it was fun to edit it, and it was genuinely a challenge. But no, I think Laura did an incredible job. Yeah,
Can confirm.
You both did, yes. Here.
So I have a feeling, rightfully so, a lot of people are going to see this movie and be very excited to see you and Rosamund, but you have a third actor in this movie who is just like,
Megan, yeah.
like truly like next level special, because I can't even begin to imagine how difficult it is to deliver a performance like that, where, you know, we don't get the opportunity to see her. So what was it like collaborating with her and making sure when she's filming something like that, I guess it feels as immersive as possible for her?
It was, so she had her booth off like stage. She called it the trauma booth, and because she had to like just be in there on her own and like going through all these emotions, and then she had to do it again in post. But I think she's just so talented. I mean, you can speak like how the collaboration with her.
Well, it's gold to have someone who's willing to give you 110% on every take. And we always thought she was going to pass out because she was hyperventilating so much. We're like, take it easy, you know, look after yourself. Because not to get too pretentious, but there's a degree of trauma you're putting yourself through every time, and it affects you. And she's just stellar. She has the technique and she has the commitment, and she was. For a piece like this, you need that person who's going to give you the every time, and she absolutely did.
Yeah, she gave 150%. Yeah.
Really,
yeah.
really just like boggles my brain about like the art you do and all actors do, is that like feels like every single role you get, whether it's comedy heavy, something super emotional, it's like you give so much of yourself to it. And in certain situations, I'm like, I can't even imagine putting myself in a headspace that I actively try to avoid on a regular, which is probably why I love movies, because I can experience that in a safe place. So I have to squeeze in one last question that I'm going to handle a little delicately, just because I want to make sure when people see your movie, they sit through the credits and don't get up and leave. I guess, can you maybe tease why you wanted to save that for then, and kind of give it, I don't know, the ending is such a gut punch, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there and you're watching the credits and you have this moment where like, oh, I already got the point of this story, but now that makes it hit that much harder.
Well, that was the plan, and we, you know, don't want to spoil anything, but like there is an Easter egg in the end credits, especially like right at the beginning when the cards are showing up, and I really urge people to sit through that, because I think it's just like there were like a few like people last night after the premiere. It was like it just suddenly, like you said, it's just suddenly give it a fresh angle, and it was like whoa, and I love that. It's like you start rethinking what you just experienced.
I was about to say something that would ruin it. I'll say it after we wrap. So I'm just going to say huge congratulations on Hallow Road.
Thank you.
Really like one heck of a ride. So incredibly powerful. I'm so impressed by how you made this film.
Oh, thank you. Very kind.
Me the same.
Oh,
Enjoy
thank you for your
celebrating.
amazing performance. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.